Hello and welcome to Artwork, a conversation with creative people about the joys, the challenges and the mundane moments of living an artistic life. We're your hosts, I'm Poppy Rose.
And I'm Brie Robertson.
And our artist today is London-born Nigerian, Amarnah Ufuoma Cleopatra Osajivbe-Amuludun.
Amarnah is a dance artist, movement teacher, personal trainer, choreographer, singer-songwriter, actress, and hairdresser. At the age of 14, she began her training in contemporary dance and continued until joining London Contemporary Dance School in 2010.
Although an injury forced Amarnah to take some time away from dance, she graduated from LCDS in 2015 and has worked across dance and theatre forms on stages, for TV, short films, music videos, and gallery spaces worldwide.
Music has always been a major passion and inspiration to Amarnah. Recently, she has been collaborating with musicians, and at the end of 2020, she released her first single in a collaborative album, Volume 1, Refuge, with the collective Scrapbook Mixtape, under her artist name, Queen Cleopatra.
In this episode, we talk about our strength as artists to adapt and embrace new creative forms, the importance of persistence and patience while building a sustainable career, the value of rest, and so much more.
Let's dive in.
Well, welcome, Amarnah. It's so nice to have you here on the podcast. I can't wait to chat with you about all these different creative projects that you juggle and with your dance and your music. And I can't wait to dig into it all.
Nice.
So yeah, excited to have you here. Do you want to start off by giving us a little introduction? Because like I say, you juggle a lot of different things. How would you introduce yourself? And tell us a bit about you.
Okay, so I'd probably start by saying I'm a Nigerian British female dancer. Dance artist, let's say. My grandparents both sides were born in Nigeria, and they moved to London, southeast London, in the 60s. Late 50s, early 60s, and then my parents were born here. So I'm second generation. I've been a creative, performative person since forever. I used to attend lots of kind of like school, after school clubs or like Saturday schools, which was like performing arts. And then when I was 14, that's when I kind of found contemporary dance at Laban, which is a conservatoire in southeast London in Deptford, and they started doing a centre for advanced training, their CAT scheme. So I joined that when I was 14. But before that, actually, I was doing like evening classes once a week. And basically, when contemporary came, I was like, this is the dance I've been waiting for my whole life, because there was something in performing I loved, but I didn't find this like innate passion to want to do it forever until I found contemporary dance. And mainly because that it's like you can bring all of you into it, and there's a lot of space to be many things. It's not just technique, but it's not just emotion. It's not just sass. It's not just pointing your feet, but it can be all of those things. Um, and yeah, I consider myself, so I say dance artist because I also consider myself as a singer-songwriter and an actress as well. So I have performed in some short films in the last few years. I've also done theatre, like a straight acting show, and I also write music and sing. Yeah, long intro.
I love it.
So amazing.
Oh, I forgot to say I'm also a hairdresser.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And I'm hoping to do massage soon as well at some point. Because I kind of do it on the side, but I don't have a technical qualification yet.
Mm-hmm. So what is it like juggling all these different creative projects? Like, how do you find that life of doing dance one day and music the next and hair the next and then acting, like all these different things? Is that something that you've like actively built to be like, okay, I really want to pursue all of these passions? or is it just something that's built organically? And yeah, tell us about that.
It's definitely been an organic process. Like when I went to the place in 2010, I that was like the first time I like kind of was only dancing pretty much. As much as I could, I'd try and bring in text and like voice work, because I've always really enjoyed using my voice in performance, in dance. I kind of tried to
Mm.
do as many projects within the course that included not just dancing, so like acting or singing. But I had an injury when I was 20, like 19, 20, in my second year, which was a meniscus tear to my left knee. So it meant that I basically couldn't dance anymore for a while, and I actually had to have two operations. The first operation I had while I was still enrolled as a student, but then the tear happened again, and that was when I was like, okay, I actually need to leave
Mm.
the building. Otherwise, my energy and my like spirit wants to dance, but my body's like
Yeah.
not ready. So I couldn't really control being around like dancers, being in the studio and not dancing. Also for my mental health, it was just really depressing. So I left in 2012. Um, yeah, 2012, and I took 2 years out. I was only meant to take off the rest of the year, but then I ended up taking off another year. And in that time, I was like, well, what if I can never dance again? This sure as hell ain't going to be the end of my like performance career. So I started I enrolled in like this method acting intensive like course, which was like a month, 4 days a week, for a month. And I did that like, and it happens 4 times a year. So I did that like twice or 3 times. And it was
Wow.
great because it was still performing, but I wasn't having to be as physical. It was like a lot of it was in the chair or like walking. It was like pretty basic physical engagement, but there was still this aspect of like using my my creative energy.
Mm.
So then when I went back to dance training, I kind of had that experience that added to where I took myself when I graduated. I've kind of always been singing, like singing, and I used to play piano. So that was like I started piano when I was like 9, or 8 or something, and so I was like musical. I've always been musical, so that's kind of just been like an ongoing thread,
Mm.
whether it's singing in the shower or like on a stage at an open mic, like jam session. It's only this year, well, last year, that I've actually like switched and focused on music in a way that I haven't done. Like I've just got a singing coach or like a voice coach. I just released my first single with like a collective called Scrapbook Mixtape, and it's called Volume One Refuge. And the kind of concept came about before lockdown, but because of lockdown, we were able to actually put our energy into focusing on it because there was no other work for a lot of us. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have to juggle anything because there was nothing to juggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the first time I kind of had a chance to put music in the front, which has been really great. And then the hairdressing was just a hustle, really. It was like I've got dreadlocks myself. My hairdresser was looking for someone, a business partner, basically someone to take some of her clients because she was getting inundated with like clients and couldn't always give them appointments. And I was like, I've been her client for like the last 8 years, and she's become like my friend slash second mum. And she just kind of brought me in and taught me how to do hair, to retwist and make dreadlocks. And then I started doing that like 4 years ago. I don't know. I'm a traveler. Like I like to be in different places. I like to experience
Mm.
new things. I could never be one of those people that is just like in the same job. I need to bring in other things, whether it's in the evening, like going to boxing or something, or like on the weekends doing, I don't know, table tennis or random things. Like I just like to do, I like variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to keep it moving. So I guess it was meant to be this way. I can't imagine my life any other way, to be honest. Before lockdown was like a bit like I was overwhelmed actually. There would be times that I would be working like
Mm.
14 days in a row because, being a freelancer, you kind of get used to saying
Mm.
yes because you don't know when the work's going to come again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I would say yes a bit too often, and then it would be like, shit, I haven't had a day off in like 2 weeks. And this lockdown for sure is like definitely brought into my life a bit more kind of structure. And I've actually enjoyed
Mm.
having time off. And I don't think I could go back to that again. Like, I really think it's important to keep
Yeah.
space and actually put it in my diary. Like, my time
Yes.
is as
Yeah.
important as someone paying
Mm.
for me. Yeah.
That is a theme that has come up so often in the last like few months, because all the artists that we've talked to have kind of been in that position where they were slogging themselves so hard, like every day balancing multiple things. And then all of a sudden, for the first time in potentially years, the lockdown forced them to stop. And it's almost like it's given us the chance to just reset and reevaluate like what a
Mm.
healthy work-life balance looks like. And yeah, so it's amazing that you've said that, because I think so many artists are going through that process right now where you look back and you almost can't even imagine how much you did before
Yeah.
lockdown.
It's insane.
So important to look after ourselves.
100%. And especially, like, my body is literally like my instrument, so I have to really take
Yeah.
care. And like, because I've been injured like so many times, I feel like I am an injured dancer. There's not been a long time that I haven't been working with or around some sort of injury. Yeah,
Mm,
so that's also another reason why it's been important for me to have other things, because if dance
yeah.
was it, then there would be times that I would have no work. So yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you had an injury that you left your training for a couple of years. How did you deal with that? And how did you manage, like, kind of the mental side of it, of like seeing your peers continuing and you having to stop and actually take that time to really look after yourself and let your body heal?
It was a big lesson in patience. Patience. That was like the main theme, really.
Mm,
Because when I wasn't patient, I ended up having to have another surgery. So, and
Mm.
it's because, like, as dancers, a lot of dancers, most dancers I know, most physical, like, I mean, most artists, that we're so self-critical and really want to do the best. But the best sometimes means that we actually need to do nothing, so that we allow space and time to recover, to heal, and to grow, because rest is as an important part of strength, like, of building strength. Sometimes you need to stop so that your body has the time to kind of catch up with everything that you've learned. So yeah, it was really hard. That's why I had to leave, because I couldn't be sitting in the studio watching people dance every day, and I
mm.
couldn't do it. So I basically just I got a job in a call center, which was wow. It was a really, really bizarre mix of people. And on the phone, you don't actually, like, when you're on the phone, you don't see what people look like. But if you were to see like the eclectic mix of people in this call center, you would, like, there would be no other place in London that would have these people in the same room together. From like hardcore punk rockers to like classically trained celloists to like wannabe pop stars to just like, yeah, random people. I went to the gym and I just had to keep physical in some way, and the only way was to be symmetrical. I couldn't do the dance thing because that was putting too much strain on the joint, so I just had to do squats for about 6 months, pretty much.
Before your injuries, were you really like focused on being a dancer at that point? Was that kind of your one goal?
I think I've always had this like vision that things will change, and what I want to do
Mm-hmm.
will
Okay.
change. And also, like, I've always had this, like, I used to drill into myself as a child. Like, I don't know how I was this like wise as like a child, but like, it's never too late to start something new. Like, I feel like it's an important part of me that's like, no matter how old you get, it doesn't mean that you there's nothing that you can't do. It just means that it will be a bit harder, but you can do anything you want to at any given time if you want to do it, like, especially like
Yeah.
now. So although dance was definitely and still is like a huge passion of mine, it was a massive passion. It was like heartbreaking to not be dancing for a while, but I was never like, right, I'm not going to do anything creative ever again. It was just like, okay, how can I
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
creative apart from dance? Like, maybe it's just
Yeah.
dancing in a chair. I mean, I used to go to like live concerts and gigs and just rock up and find a chair and literally sit in the front row while everyone else was standing around me, and quite possibly be dancing more than anyone else who was
I
standing.
love that.
I think it's such an amazing strength because how you're speaking reminds me a lot of how I've been, and there were times in my life where I really thought it was a weakness to feel like I can do a bit of that and I enjoy that and I want to play with that, and I felt like I was actually doing myself a disservice by having a finger in so many pies and like not really excelling at anything. And I watched a TED talk once where the woman was talking about that this was a particular personality makeup. There are people who just like need to be doing multiple things, and their strengths are in other areas, like the strength of adaptability and being able to adapt to a new situation, new people, new skills, the strength of like being okay with being a beginner at things. Like we're constantly beginning and like constantly feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just gonna give it a go. And I watched this and I literally cried because I realized for the first time that like it's not a weakness that I'm trying all these different things. It's actually like my strength that I can. And I just think it's awesome.
What are some highlights of your journey so far?
Some of my favorites have just been because I've managed to go to like really amazing places in the world. I went to South Africa, to Cape Town for one project with a company called Barreland Ballet. The piece was called Whiteout, and it was like based on the idea of like like cross-cultural relationships, so people from different cultures coming together in a relationship. Um, and yeah, the piece was really hard actually, really physical. It was good. It was like at the time when I was like really hungry for like crazy dancing, and I'm not really that physical anymore. Um, I'd have to train. I guess it's just like the injuries and stuff. I just have to be like really careful. But it was an incredible project. I got to go to South Africa. I got to go to Cape Town, which I mean, South Africa is an incredible place. It's like this. It's really complex, like what is going on there. But the people that I met, the African artists, like the Black African artists there, just like so inspirational. The Black women there, oh my God, so much style. I don't think I've ever seen so many stylish Black women in like one place. It was just like everyone has got like pop-in earrings, pop-in haircut, pop-in like avant-garde like tops, like all the shops were just like banging. Yeah, I was feeling it. I was feeling it. Project okay, more like for the artistic side, I got to work with Sampa the Great. She's a Australian-based Zambian rapper, um, and I was in one of her music videos called Energy, and I kind of like helped to choreograph that and helped to get some dancers involved in that, and that was amazing. But at the same time, like soon after, or was it before, I did a live show with her at the Jazz Cafe. Um, and that was just because she's like her music is amazing. Her lyrics are so empowering to Black women, and also like her producer Jay, he's like like on it, and the musicians like just working. I love working like because I love music so much. I love working with live music and to be dancing with like a live band. And then obviously when there's the audience there, where it's like often when you're dancing as just a dancer, everyone's sitting down and is quiet. And well, in contemporary, obviously in like hip hop or like more urban dance styles, there's this kind of like a more open engagement where there's like a conversation between the audience and the performers. Whereas contemporary is sometimes a bit like dry, like people like are afraid to like sneeze or like scratch their nose, and I really hate that. Like when I make work, I really like to encourage some sort of engagement, like physical or like oral engagement from the audience.
That's cool.
So being on stage with like when you're at a gig, obviously everyone's standing up and dancing, so the energy that you receive from the live music and the audience, it's just like Wah. And then also it's just like nice afterwards where like you get like a little bit of like some fan vibes, like where they're like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's just like, oh thanks. It's just like that was nice. And yeah, that that I think that's one of my highlights. One, like, working with her has been definitely a highlight.
Mm.
But to be honest, like, I've been really, really fortunate to work. Like, I had a really great time working with a theatre company called Breach Theatre, um, and that was like we toured around the UK with like this theatre piece. They were a really fun cast. It was like also divisive, so like my input was part of the process.
Nice.
And I worked with my best friend Dorothy. She's a film director. Done a few things with her. I did a short film called The Dance Teacher, where I was the dance teacher. She kind of like based it on my life, which is quite jokes.
Wow, I love
Wow.
that.
And then I did another like mini documentary with her, which was also a massive highlight because it was based on the South, like, or the London jazz scene. And because I'm kind of like quite connected to a lot of the musicians, like, I don't know, I've known or been in the same room and danced with or for like a lot of the kind of like prominent UK jazz musicians at the moment. Sons of Kemet,
Mm.
Kokoroko, um, Nabaya. Um, I mean, I went to school with Ashley Henry. There's like lots of people that I have managed to bring
Wow.
in, or I've been brought into and just been seen because when I turn up to live music, I dance. Like, I'm not one of those foot tapping head nodders. I will like shake
Yeah.
my ass and not be sorry about it. Um,
Yeah.
and so there was this mini documentary about this London jazz scene, and I managed to bring in like some of my favorite musicians, and I curated like a night in Southeast London in Deptford, and then we had rehearsals in Laban as well, so we had like a jam session, and yeah, it was really fun. It was being filmed, so it was like work, but it felt like just like me doing my everyday thing, and yeah.
Those projects sound amazing.
Thank you. Yeah,
My
it's
gosh.
been
Wow.
I've been really lucky.
Yeah.
It's hard though because in the beginning, when you leave uni, you're like so anxious and just like,
Yeah. Oh,
how the hell am I going to do this? Because it did take. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong, it wasn't always like that. Like, I did have like a year and a half where I was doing promo. Oh my god, like handing out leaflets in train stations, getting ignored, but that's part of it. So luckily, I don't have to do any of those kind of jobs anymore.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember that feeling of leaving uni and just having no idea what was going to happen. You're leaving those safe confines of that support network. And then you might get one little opportunity and then you might hear of another one. And it's so, first of all, as an artist, like it's such a big lesson in like the importance of just like networking and,
Mm.
saying yes to things. And we can talk about that for an hour of like saying yes to things and like should I do it for the experience, am I being paid, blah blah blah
that
blah.
that is a definite a conversation. Like, the amount of like free work that you do, and then you get to a point where you're like, hang on, if I just ask for some money, they probably have it. They're just literally exploiting me.
Yeah,
Like,
Mm. Yeah,
exactly.
but you've just got to have that, like, build that confidence to be like, actually, yes, what I'm doing deserves money and I'm not afraid to ask for it. Like, the amount of support gigs that I did opening for other artists where they were like, oh, like this, this is for free. And I was like, well, no, because so many people have bought tickets. Like, it's a sold out show. There is going to be some money for me there. And they weren't going to give it to me unless I asked. And I had to ring and like email and like fight to get like 50 euros.
yeah.
It's such a joke. To get myself down to Cologne and back, it was,
Mm,
I feel like you have to just I like to just strap on some confidence and be like, right, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to
Yeah,
ask for
yeah,
the money that I know I deserve, but it takes time, it takes experience, and it does
yeah.
take bravery. But it's got to
Yeah,
be
but I
done.
think it's like it's so cool to look back and see what the journey has been like, and the fear at each point where I think so many of us as artists, it's like you never know where the next job is going to come, and you're nervous about what if nothing comes out of this or whatever. But then you look back and you're like, wow, somehow it just figured itself out, and it's quite
yeah,
amazing.
there was a point where I realized I didn't have to look for work anymore. People actually started looking for me, and I was like, wow, like, and
That's
and it's always
awesome.
it, and it, thank like God, the universe, like Mother Nature, spirits, ancestors, like whoever you want to thank, like for not, yeah, just like that always happened at the right time, just at the point when
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I've got work until February, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing after that. And then in January, I'll get an email being like, yeah, there's this project in March, through to like July. And I'm like, wow, like, thank, thank everyone, thank everything.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, noticing when that started happening, I was like, okay, like, yeah, I've
Yeah,
been working hard and it's paying off. So yeah, it's
totally.
just about like staying, not giving up really, and just like being persistent, and
Yeah,
also patience. I
yeah.
think patience is also really important,
Mm.
because you just have to be patient that it will happen.
Hello.
Hello.
It's your Artwork Podcast hosts, briefly interrupting this episode. We hope you're enjoying this conversation and feeling really inspired by this story.
We'd just like to remind you that the Artwork Podcast is a completely independent project and we'd really appreciate your help in spreading the word. You can do that by subscribing, leaving a comment or a review, and sharing the podcast with your friends.
You can also support the podcast through our tip jar on Patreon. If you believe in this project and you feel there's value in sharing these stories, a small contribution will help us keep going. You can choose to give a monthly or a single donation, and there are some special little rewards in there for you too.
And we'd like to invite you to take part in the artwork conversation by joining our Artwork Community Facebook group. There, you will be able to connect with the artist we featured on the podcast and share your journey with like-minded creatives.
Let's get back to the conversation. I've been reading a lot lately about synchronicity and how like when you take an action or when you take a step that like you're saying, I'm going to take action about this, then somehow magic happens and it like meets you there. And it's been really interesting just in the few weeks where because I'm thinking about it and I'm writing about it in the mornings and things, I'm kind of more aware of it happening. And I think that's something that we can really trust in.
Exactly, and I was about to say as well, yeah, like this idea of intention, like intentionality, like write down what you want as well, like. And there's been years, there's like at the beginning of the year, it's like, okay, what are my New Year's resolutions? It's like, I think for the last like 4 years, I kept on writing, I need to get an agent, I need to get an agent, I need to get an agent. And like, I never got one. I never got one.
Yeah.
And then this year, out of the blue, because my mum used to be an actress, my mum's like agent, who's been like dormant for like years, sent her this thing. And then she sent like for like people who live in the same house together. And then my mum sent a picture of us together and was like, oh, your daughter's beautiful, I'd love to represent her. And I was like, bang.
Wow.
Amazing. Oh my God.
That is just proof that those things happen and those things work. Yeah. I mean, that's why my affirmation is I am ready to receive, because, you know, I'm very much like, I love writing down and dreaming about what I want my future life to look like, and then actually just telling the universe that I'm ready to receive it. And I'm ready mentally, I'm ready. I've got the physical space, you know, like, you know, the things around me, and like getting everything ready to receive those next steps into our lives. It's awesome. So I'd love to talk to you more about your music and the song that you recently released with the Scrapbook Mixtape. It's such a beautiful song. I described it as ethereal spoken word. And we'd love to like play a little clip of it now, so our listeners can hear a bit of it. But yeah, so tell us about this song, like the writing process, what it means to you, and the collective that you're a part of. Like, tell us all about it.
Sure. The song, I guess, like music, singing and writing for me has always been quite a healing process, or like a healing action. Whether it's like, especially when I freestyle, or improvise, it's kind of just like tuning into my spirit and allowing the spirit to talk, and trying to get out of my head, I guess. And so the lyrics were a mixture of two different poems I had written like maybe a year or two ago. And so the process of, so Scrapbook Mixtape came about because a group, so there's kind of like the scene that I was talking about, the like UK jazz scene. One prominent night that used to happen every Wednesday, it was called Steam Down, and I used to go religiously, like it was like the church basically, and I met some amazing friends and musicians there. It was an incredible night, a healing night that was like a chance to just connect to music, connect to your body, and connect to each other. There was like definitely a community aspect to everything. It was, yeah, it was beautiful. But as things happen in London, the minute it gets popular, it starts to change. So it did start to change, and various things happened that meant that I no longer wanted to be there, basically. And that happened with a lot of the people that I knew and that were the musicians originally there. So we kind of all kind of exited stage left. But we were like, we can't just let this go. Like, we have to do something with each other still. We can't just be like, okay, that was that and bye. So we created first it was just a WhatsApp group that was just called Maintaining the Community. And we were like, okay, we just want to like just keep in contact with everyone and like check each other out and check up on each other, make sure we're all good. And then it was like, no, actually, we want to do our own thing. We want to try and capture the beauty that was there in the beginning of this night, and make our version of it and kind of do it in the way that we had hoped it had gone. So the initial idea was to like support each other's creative, like musical endeavors, but equally there's animators, there's filmmakers, there's film directors, there's illustrators, there's dancers, like me dancing, dancers. There's a mixture of people in it, but we kind of used music as our entrance, our like point of connection. And then we were like, okay, we'd love to curate nights, but also we'd like to write songs and help each other. And then lockdown happened. We were like, okay, no, we're not gonna. We are going to. We're actually gonna do this. So we were trying to figure out what the name was. There was something about it not just being about the music. There was also something about the visual element of it, which was kind of this idea of a scrapbook. So we were like, okay, scrapbook. And then we were like, well, we kind of want to make a mixtape. And then in the beginning, it was just Scrapbook Mixtape as the name of the WhatsApp group. And then we were like, actually, we went through so many journeys to try and find the name. And then we were like, let's just call it Scrapbook Mixtape. And
I love that name. It's so great.
so we started having Zoom meetings. We paired up with some people worked on their own stuff, and there's the producer of the track that I'm on is called Mauricia Osu, and she is a harpist as well as a producer. So she's incredible. And she laid down. So we had this listening party where we'd like share like our first kind of sketches, and Mauricia just had a beat, and well, she had the beat and the instrumentation, but she kind of wanted some more on it. And I had a song with me playing awfully on the guitar because I'm not a guitarist, but I was like, well, I'm in my yard and that's the only instrument I have right now, so I'll just learn guitar and try and sing and play at the same time. My god, it was awful. But then Wumi, he's a graphic designer and animator, he's like talented, like sketcher. Anyway, he was like, why don't you do some spoken word on Mauricia's track? And I was like, yeah, okay. So that was that. It was like, okay, I'll do that. And so as she sent me the track, I listened to it. I went through my like notes on my computer from all the poems on the last like 5 years that I'd written, and I was like, okay, this. And also I was going through a point where I was like needing to heal, like I'm wanting to put healing out there to people.
Stumbling off, staying on, fumbling through, never gonna lose. Stumbling off, staying on. There are words at the tip of my tongue, on the skin of my lips. There are words at the tip of my tongue, on the skin of my lips, wanting to ripple out from my heart through my throat. talking to you. These words at the tip of my tongue, I want to seduce you with. I want my lips to massage your lips as we kiss, with the spring sun beating down on our necks. There are words making their way through the earth. These words belong to both of us. These are our words at the tip of my tongue, sliding softly forwards, but I resist to speak them.
Yeah, so the song came about through a few takes of me like just freestyling, and then it was just spoken word, and then it was like, actually I want to be a bit more, I want to have some vocals, some like more like lyrical vocals on it, so I sung on top of it as well, and it was like through back and forth, so I'd have to record on like my headphones, then she'd get it. But then there was a moment in lockdown that there was a bit of more space for us to be in each other's spaces. There was that like brief like month, so I went round to hers, and recorded on. She has like an actual mic and everything, so I re-recorded everything again, and then she added bits and changed it, and then it became what it is now, Stumbling.
Amazing.
And we were all, actually a lot of us were part of because not only is there the album release, there's also the Scrapbook publication zine, and we would workshop with each other, like we'd sketch, we'd like Wumi would like lead some like animation or like drawing workshops. We'd like, so within the Scrapbook there is bits from everyone. I've got some poetry on there, there's other poetries from other people. Like in the album there's like 3 people that are actually like not musicians, that have singles on the album. So we really wanted to support each other, and that's what we've been doing, and we're in the midst of kind of doing a volume 2 now as well, so hopefully by the end of summer we'll have something out. And when lockdown is over, we definitely want to curate live nights with like movement workshops, with live music, jams, and
I want to come.
You're invited.
It sounds so amazing. I'm just so overwhelmed by this amazing like explosion of just creativity in every single form, and it's available on Bandcamp, so I will put the link in the show notes as well if anyone wants to go and check that out.
From your experience, how important is it for artists to find a community of people like that?
From my experience, I think it's really important. I mean, some artists work really well on their own, and I don't like invalidate that kind of process. I mean, sometimes I also just need to be on my own, but I'm definitely an extrovert. I'm definitely a person that vibes off the energy of other people. Lockdown has been really difficult for me to be on my own. It's been a useful practice to get used to my own company, and I've definitely grown to enjoy my bedroom. It's become like my sanctuary. I've got like, I looked at it this morning, I was like, it's basically a forest now. I've got so many plants in it. It's like just exploded all of a sudden. I was like, bam, 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 green, green, green. But I think it's really useful to have energy to bounce off, to also have like a chance to reflect, to be heard, to be seen, to be appreciated, to also, I think, to also get some positive feedback. It's so easy for us to like not even, so much, like there was one song on Scrapbook that like George wasn't even, his name's George Tatenda, he wasn't even gonna like let us listen to it, let alone be on the mixtape. And we heard it and we were like, are you mad? Like, this is a tune. Like, and he's a film director, do you know what I mean? But he produced everything himself and sung. And I was like, dude, like if it wasn't for that, then that would probably just be on his hard drive somewhere. So I think it's really important to share, even when we feel nervous and scared. If anything, that's when we should do it most, is when we're actually scared.
Before we say goodbye, we always finish on a question of like, is there any advice that you would give other artists or people listening to this from your experience that you think could benefit others who might be listening?
don't forget to rest. I think it's really easy to just want to go do and produce, but like rest is really important. And in like the society, in the capitalist society that we live in, rest is really undervalued. It's almost seen as weak. And I think the most kind of like healing, the most growth I've done is when I've just like said no, and said no. Saying no actually means saying yes to myself. If I've said no to someone else, it's because I've said yes to myself. So don't always see a no as a no. Take
I love
time.
that.
If you can, like, really meditate and sit with yourself. It's hard. I know it's not always easy to sit with the thoughts, or to like just accept and welcome all that is you. But all that is you is what makes you complex and beautiful. Even the shadows. So if we don't look at them, then those shadows can sometimes like take over or act out, as opposed to us having an awareness of ourselves. So I hope that kind of sums up something. It's kind of just freestyling there. But
Absolutely.
yeah, rest, and yeah, take value in like taking baths, lighting a candle, yeah, massage, self massage, paying for a massage. Damn it, man, treat yourself.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode.
If you'd like to be a part of the artwork conversation, we would love to invite you to join our Artwork Community Facebook group, where you can connect with the artists we've featured on the podcast and share your journey with a like-minded community. You can find the link in the show notes, as well as all the links to today's artist.
If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would take the time to subscribe to and review it so that more people can find us in the future. Your comments can help us pop up on more people's suggested podcasts, helping our artists' stories reach a wider audience.
Podcasts are best spread by word of mouth, so if you know people who might enjoy this episode or the Artwork podcast as a whole, we would love it if you told them all about it. And if you'd like to financially support this project, you can now do that on Patreon, where you can choose the amount you'd like to give us for lots of fun rewards.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at art.workconversation.
And tune in next week for another inspiring episode. Bye!
Bye!